I want to thank you all for coming because I know there's a lot of exciting stuff going on here. Rick Santorum speaking right now, but I think what we have to talk about here today in this session is honestly the most important thing that's taking place at this conference this weekend, because essentially what you're going to hear about, if you haven't heard about it before, is what I call Plan B. Plan A has been, I know all of us have been looking forward to the 2012 election as a chance to reverse the course that America has been on for the last 3.5 years. And as we get closer to the election, I think that many people are wondering whether the 2012 election is really going to result in that kind of U-turn that we were all praying and expecting and anticipating. And we've put our eggs all in one basket, if you will. That is defeating Obama and reversing the course we've been on. And there's a couple of problems with that. The number one problem is that there's a chance that Obama could be reelected. As much as that nobody in this room wants to hear that, it is a possibility. If you've looked carefully at the recent polling that's been done, including recent poll that we conducted, was shocking. 20% of Republicans are leaning toward Obama, which is unheard of. You cannot win an election with 20%. I'm not talking about 20% staying home. I'm talking about 20% going the other way. You cannot win an election that way. Meanwhile, Obama has about 87% of the support of Democrats. So, for the last couple of years, we've been thinking a lot of Democrats probably have second thoughts, regrets about what happened in 2008, and maybe they would see the light. That does not seem to be reflected in any of the polls we're seeing. The other possibility, of course, one other possibility is that we'll get a Republican elected to the White House, but it's not going to be the kind of Republican that we had hoped to have, somebody who's really going to be enthused about reversing all of the destructive policies we've seen implemented over the previous first term. So what is our backup plan? That's what this session is all about. There's something that can be done that will have the effects that I think most of us want to have. And most of Americans, by the way. When we look at the polls on this debt issue, we find that 80% of Republicans would like to freeze the debt limit right where it is, which is a very good first step. 70% of independents would like to do that, according to every single poll that's done. And more than 50% of Democrats would like to do that as well. So this is an issue where we have the wind to our backs. We're riding the popular tide. And the goal of the No More Red Ink campaign over the next 12 months is to try to persuade Republicans to do what they say they want to do all the time, which is give us balanced budgets, which is reduce the size of government, reduce debt, all the things that Republicans talk about. The dirty little secret is that in 2011 they had the chance to do all that, and they didn't take it. And so the question is, can we persuade Republicans to be Republicans beginning in 2012 and 2013? How many of you would like to see Obamacare reversed? Right. How many of you would like to see a stop to Planned Parenthood subsidies by the federal government? I figured. how would you like to see unconstitutional bureaucracies like the Department of Education eliminated? That's really what I think most people at this conference would want to see. But we've seen precious little, at least I have, at this conference where we've talked about getting that done. How do we get that done? Bigger question is, how would you like to see America return to constitutionally limited government, drastically cutting spending, stopping all borrowing, and reducing the size and scope of Washington? That's an agenda that, we've heard some of the presidential candidates talk about, but how do you get it done? Last night, the dinner, Paul Ryan was one of the keynote speakers. And the Paul Ryan plan, which a lot of people, a lot of conservatives, most Republicans applaud the Paul Ryan plan. The Paul Ryan plan in reality calls for at least 4 more years of borrowing and relies on Congress's, new Congress's 3 terms from now, 4 terms from now to actually start cutting spending. And I don't think that's realistic. I think it's more of the same kind of Washington behavior that we've seen for too long. So all we have to do, this is the message I want to deliver today, all we have to do to accomplish all these worthy Republican conservative ideas is to persuade Republicans, just Republicans, to freeze the debt limit at their very next opportunity. Now, I want to give you a little background about how I came to believe this is the best course of action politically for us, and what we could do with just one house of Congress. I think we can safely assume, if we look at the political climate we've got in this country right now, the way things stand, even assuming the worst case scenario of an Obama re-election, Republicans have the are in the driver's seat for maintaining control of the House of Representatives, possibly even winning the Senate. Last year, when shortly after the 2010 election in January, I began thinking about what you can do with one House of Congress. And I looked at it very hard, and I came to the conclusion there was really only one thing that Republicans could do with control of the House of Representatives that would dramatically and positively change the course of this country, and that was to vote to freeze the debt limit, because the effects of freezing the debt limit are dramatic. It means that immediately you've got to stop spending about $1.2 trillion a year, cutting spending that radically to begin living within the means available in Washington. Now, what does that mean? That means you really don't have to worry about repealing Obamacare, because there will be no funding for Obamacare. The funds are gone. You don't have to worry about Planned Parenthood funding, because there's no funding for that, and lots more. I mean, you're going to have to eliminate cabinet-level departments, agencies. That's just a reality. $1.2 trillion is a lot of money, and that's what we're borrowing every year. Well, how did it play out last year? What happened was we began a campaign in January, the No More Reading campaign. And by the way, remember one thing from this session today, nomorereading.com. Go there, visit the site, see what the campaign is all about, and see if you can enlist others to get on board. What happened last year was in January we began the No More Reading campaign, phase 1, if you will. And it consisted of grassroots lobbying on the House of Representatives, the one institution that could have a positive impact on it. And we devised a system where anybody could send letters to every single member of the Republican House caucus urging them to vote no when it came to raising the debt limit. The reason Republicans could do this alone is because it's a negative. The House of Representatives and the Senate were both needed to ratify a raise in the debt limit. Well, you had 241 Republicans controlling the House, and if 218 of them voted no, no meant no. There would be no debt limit increase. So we began bombarding the Republicans with red letters every day, packages delivered, Federal Express to them, over 1 million letters. Now, during the course of that campaign, which began in January and continued very strongly through May and June, we saw a major shift take place within that caucus. We were surveying them about once a month, just the Republicans, to find out where they were on this issue. Well, when it started out, there was almost nobody in favor of freezing the debt limit, because everything you heard in the media about the idea of freezing the debt limit, and everything you heard from the Wall Street establishment and the Washington elite, was it would be a catastrophe. There'd be people starving in the streets. It would be, the worst calamity in the history of America. And so it was natural that there'd be a lot of caution, if you will, toward that idea. But as the campaign continued and as we empowered Republicans to actually think in terms of saying no, we saw a major shift. And at one point, I think we had at least 221 votes among House Republicans to say no to raising the debt limit, which was more than were needed. That was in the spring of 2011. The media bombardment continued. And Boehner, our House Speaker, John Boehner, went into action big time, and he began twisting a lot of arms. By the way, Boehner started out taking this off the table in January. As soon as he was sworn in as House Speaker, he took this off the table. It was unthinkable, he said, that you could say no to raising the debt limit. This was the one bit of political leverage that he had to, even if he didn't believe in it, simply to extract concessions from the Democrats for major cuts. The threat of saying no was critical, but he made public pronouncements in January to the effect of it was off the table. And so that was a really bad strategic mistake. It's like unilaterally disarming and giving up your political nuclear weapon, if you will, because that's how powerful this really is. And so we began to see a drift the other way. Republicans, even some of the very best. I can tell you that I met with more than a dozen House Republicans, names you would think of in the House Republican caucus. When it came time for the vote in August 1st, I believe it was, we had 22 left standing who stood firm against raising the debt limit. And so the phase 2 of the No More Reading campaign, I figured we had to get a little bit more sophisticated. And so in addition to the constant bombardment of the House Republicans that continues today with this campaign, in phase 2, we've adopted a no more borrowing pledge. And the reason we did that is because, there's been so much success with the no new taxes pledge over years. If you think about it, there's one thing we can pretty much count on Republicans in Congress not to do, and that is to raise taxes, because overwhelmingly they have taken this pledge, and it's very difficult to go back on a written pledge. It doesn't play well with voters at all. And so now we've begun the process of getting Republican office holders, presidential candidates, congressional candidates, all Republicans. We're just 100% focused on Republicans to take this pledge. Ron Paul was the very first to sign it, and much to his credit. I have to tell you that the Ron Paul economic plan for America is the right plan. Now, I'm not a Ron Paul enthusiast. I have many disagreements with Ron Paul on other issues. But what we really need to do is we need to get the other Republican presidential candidates to recognize why he has so much popularity. I don't think his popularity is based on the fact that he doesn't recognize, clear and compelling national security threats to the United States. I don't think his popularity is based on the idea that we shouldn't have killed bin Laden. I think his popularity is based on his very sound domestic economic agenda for this country. The single best presidential platform this year is Ron Paul's idea to cut $1 trillion out of spending the first year he's in office. That's a radical agenda, and it's what's needed. We need radical solutions in times of crisis like we're in right now. So Ron Paul signed it. We have put the pledge in front of the other Republican presidential candidates. I can tell you they all have seen it. I personally delivered it to Rick Santorum, and I can tell you that I've gotten feedback from folks who are right at the top of the Romney campaign and the Gingrich campaign. It's been presented to them. I believe that I can say that all of those candidates recognize that this is a very popular issue. By the way, when Herman Cain was still in the race, he adopted this plan. He adopted it. We talked about it. I told him, Herman, this is bigger than 999. If you go public saying you're against raising the debt limit, this is going to resonate with the American people. He tried it, he saw it, and it worked. Put him right to the top of the polls. So that's what the second phase of this campaign is. One of the critical components is this idea of a pledge, not just for the presidential candidates. We're circulating it among House Republicans. I'm confident we're going to get the 22 to sign it in the next few weeks, the 22 who voted the right way last summer. And I have already talked to several other House Republicans, among them some of the folks, the dozen or so that I talked to last year, who have deep regrets, because it wasn't just that they raised the debt limit. The big shocker in what they did was, in raising the debt limit, they made a deal where they gave up their authority to stop the next debt limit raise. Now, some of you have heard a couple of weeks ago there was a vote in Congress where 240 House Republicans voted against raising the debt limit. And a lot of people probably don't understand that was pure symbolism. They wanted to be able to go back to their constituents and say, I voted against raising the debt limit, but they'd already given up their authority last summer to actually make it stick. And now, one of the things that's coming up, well, we know, for instance, in 2013 there's going to be another opportunity to do it. There's actually probably going to be another opportunity in 2012 after the election. That was the deal that was cut by Boehner. Was after the election they'd get their authority back to say no. Well, if you look at the trend right now of where the debt is, they're running out of money, and it looks like the critical time will be about 2 weeks after the election. There will have to be another vote